In this movie, we're going to create a brand new composition from scratch and talk about the options. In the process of so doing, we will learn a great amount of essential concepts for working with video. So down at the bottom of the project panel, click on the Create a New Composition icon. And let's just go ahead and start at the top in the Basic tab. First of all, we have loads of presets here. Now, Adobe does a great job. Whenever there's a drop-down list with loads and loads of information, there's these little divider bars that kind of organize things into logical categories. So at the top, for example, we have web. Here we have broadcast sizes. Here we have HD sizes. And at the bottom, we have film sizes. Now, you'll see this often when working with video, NTSC and PAL. Basically, this refers to the standard, the broadcast standard for different regions. NTSC stands for National Television Standards Committee. It's the standard in North America and Japan and a few other places as well. PAL is kind of like the other world standard, short for phase alternating line. It's a standard in most of Europe and also tons of other places scattered throughout the globe also. You want to make sure that you create your projects based on the video standard, the broadcast standard of the place that will be viewing your video. So if you're going to be creating a video that will be shown mostly in Canada, you'd want to use NTSC. If you're creating something that would be shown in Germany, you'd want to use these PAL presets. For now, we're going to stick to NTSC DV. Within the NTSC specs, or the PAL specs, there are certain ways that video must behave, certain standards it must conform to. For example, the pixels in width and height must conform to 720 by 480. Also, the pixel aspect ratio must be 0.9 or 0.91. The pixel aspect ratio refers to the size of the pixels. Pixels are building blocks of images, little squares that make up the image. Actually, on a computer, they're square, but on video displays, they're almost never square. So in this case, for standard broadcast, the pixel aspect ratio is 0.9, meaning that the pixel is a little bit taller than it is wide. However, watch this. Notice that the pixel dimensions are 720 by 480 at 0.91. When we change the preset to NTSC DV widescreen, watch this. The pixel width and height dimensions are exactly the same. The only thing that's changed is the size of the pixel aspect ratio. It's gone from 0.91 to 1.21. So if you find that your footage is looking a little squished, it might be a problem with your pixel aspect ratio, a common problem with video. The frame rate is another thing consistent in NTSC, and the frame rate for video is 29.97. Now, if you're doing a project for something else besides a television set, you might be wondering what the frame rate should be. Thankfully, there's some standards. Film, for example, if you're creating a movie, it's 24 frames per second. PAL is 25 frames per second. Sometimes HDTV and high-definition Blu-ray discs will go up to 60 frames per second. Now, if you're making something for the web, you'd probably want to have a slower frame rate, maybe 20 frames per second. Some computers, or should I say some bandwidth connections, might have a difficult time downloading 30 frames per second, so that's cut back a little bit for the internet. Finally, down at the bottom, we specify the duration for our composition. And now, because we covered what we did in the last movie, we understand time code, hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. What's really cool about this little duration field in the composition settings dialog box is I can go and select everything and just type 5. And what that tells After Effects is I want a composition that's 5 frames long. If I add a period, so it's 5 period, it adds a time code place. So instead of being 5 frames, it's 5 seconds. And I could keep hitting the period key to make this 5 minutes or 5 hours. Well, it doesn't quite go up to 5 hours. It goes up to 3. That's the maximum amount allowed in After Effects. Another cool trick with this field is that I can just type, let's say 15 to get 15 frames, or I could type 45. And since we're in a composition that's about 30 frames per second, it basically does all the carrying for you. So basically it's 1 second plus 15 extra frames. And so that's what you need to know about video as we go forward. You don't need to be a master of this stuff just yet, but it's good to be aware of these basic concepts. Also, if you ever click OK, you create your composition. If you ever want to change it, oftentimes, say for example, I want to change the duration of a composition, you can select the composition and then select Command K or Control K on the PC. Next, we're going to look at how to do some light video editing in After Effects.